Yes. Hi, everyone. Welcome to tonight's session. Thank you for taking the time to just be with me. My producers decided to leave me today, so I'm all alone. So I get to do and say whatever I want. No, just kidding. Today's session is about helping your child perform up to potential for exams. I know this is the time of the year where kids are studying really hard for their O levels even, and also the PSLE exams. And also parents are also studying with them, right? The nagging and the worry and the concerns. But tonight I want to share with you that you don't have to worry as a parent. There are many things that your child has already done in school to prepare for the upcoming exams. So today's session is about giving you some tips to help you manage your own stress, at the same time helping your children to also perform up to potential, right? So one of the challenges for us right now is that when it comes to exams, your child is going to be naturally stressed. I mean, let's face this, even right now as I'm speaking to you, it's also stressful, isn't it? The whole world's watching. So the point is that we will all feel nervous. So, but here's the difference, that when we look at world champions, everyone's nervous at the Olympics, at world championships, and things like that, right? But the champion is the one who is less nervous than their competitors. So the point is that you need to teach your children to just find ways to manage that stress, to increase that confidence just a little bit more so that they can then perform up to potential. So tonight I'll be sharing with you a couple of tips that are based on research in high performance sport at the world class level, at the Olympic level, and also some ideas or strategies that are used by even the military. So let's begin. The first thing I want to talk about is that we can only control the process. If you think about it, we cannot control outcome or result. But a lot of times, children at the start of the year, they will start thinking about, results, grades, and things like that. So they are often outcome oriented, which is normal, which is important. And that's what also motivates them to study. But at the end of the day, what really matters in terms of the research, at least in terms of what we have seen in high performance setting, is that performers are able to convert or switch the outcome thinking, which is so important for motivation, into process thinking. And I want to explain to you why that is so. So I say again, they convert or translate or shift, right, from outcome thinking to process thinking. So how does that happen? Well, first of all, when we look at the different types of goals, yeah, there are three major types of goals identified by research. One is outcome goals, results. The other one is performance goals and action process goals. Let me go a little bit deeper into each one of those. So outcome goals basically simple. It's the result, it's the ranking, position, the ranking in school and things like that, right? And also when it comes to comparing, how someone else does academically, then it is the grades, right? The grades would be the A, B, C, D, the letter grades. That's an outcome or result in terms of comparing your child's performance against other children, right? So in this case, performance goals is what your child has to attain for a particular subject. Say, for example, if they scored 75 marks upon 100 and their classmates got 70, so who gets a better grade? Obviously, the one with the 75, just like in sport, right? You score more goals, you win the game. So performance goals are basically goals that you set, right? They are typically number based or measurement based. That means in terms of timing, in terms of score, distance in sport, and in academics, it's the marks you get. So the numbers that you get upon 100, for example. So when you compare your performance goal with somebody else's performance goals or performance targets, the one who does better would obviously have a better outcome. So that's the relationship between outcome goals and performance goals. Then on the other hand, we have action process goals, wherein these are things that your child has to pay attention. They have to focus and execute, right? So as they look at the exam papers, they are thinking about, how to answer the question. They're thinking about what are some of the solutions to the problem, right? So they're thinking about the process in terms of how to answer the questions. And in so doing, they are, establishing the goals in terms of the actions in terms of what they need to write, actions in terms of, the way they structure their essays and things like that. So if you think about the three types of goals, the most important one is actually the third one, the action process goals, in fact. And I will give you reasons why that. So, but I just want you to understand the three types of goals firstly, and then each one of them and what they mean. So I repeat one more time. The action process goals are things you have to pay attention and do. And then when you do those, you achieve the performance, right? And if your performance is better than someone else, then you get the positive outcome, right? So these are the three goals that need to be set. We don't say we don't want to say, oh, I only set one type of goal and I ignore the rest. No, all three types of goals must be set, okay? So, but the question now is, which of these goals do you have controllability over, right? So if you focus on things that are outside of you, right, that is how other people do in terms of whatever grade that you might get even in the future, right? All these are dependent on many factors that you have no control over. So ranking, position, winning, these are outcome things which you as a performer, in this case as a student, you have very little control over because there are other factors involved in the final grade. You cannot control how other people will do. They might do better, they might do worse off than you, or even the same as you. You don't know, right? So when we're stressing up, we tend to stress out about the things we have no control over, which is often the outcomes and the results that are, being set. Therefore, these are the ones that have the least control, in fact. Then as we move closer towards the right side in this chart, you will see that performance goals, you kind of have some control because you can set the targets that you think based on your past results, based on your past performance, what you think you can achieve. And that's fine. Then what you have next is action process goals, which is what you must do, what you must think about, how you want to strategize your answer and things like that. So in that case, in that situation, in action process focus, you have more control. If you think about all these three types of goals, the ones you have the most control is often the ones within you. They're the things that you think about. They're the things you execute and behave or do. So therefore, those are the ones you have more control. So when you look at this continuum, outcome goals, you have the least control. Performance, you have somewhat, but not a lot still, because there are other things that you can't control. And then at the end of the day, process goals would be things that you have full control, right? Because it's within you. Now, whether you control it or not, now that's a separate issue altogether, because it will depend on how well you are aware of yourself, how well you execute, or deliver whatever you need to do, what you need to do. Okay. So, and here's the interesting relationship. When we find that connection between controllability factors, or what we're thinking about in terms of controllability of these goals, and stress level, right? Here's what you see. And this is why we're so stressed out, even as a society sometimes, because we often think about results, being number one, being result oriented. Now, don't get me wrong, nothing wrong with being outcome oriented. Okay, like I said in my early part of this segment, that the key here is to switch mindset, is to switch from outcome, result oriented mindset, which is important for motivation, and then shift towards the action process goals. So that in so doing, you will see that the stress level will actually come down. because you're doing things that you are good at, you're doing things that you know what to do, how to do, and as a result, you naturally will have less stress. Now, again, less stress does not mean no stress. Okay, so here you have a very important concept that I think sometimes people forget, and that is that a lot of times we tend to focus on results and outcome and even performance, but we often forget about emphasizing the process. So this little tip here, right, is to help your child shift their focus. So therefore, what motivates people is often the outcome. But what they have to do during the performance, during just before and during performance, is really the action processes that are important. So let's say in the exam, when they're looking at the exam paper, instead of thinking what grade they will get, instead of looking at the time, which is a performance goal somewhat, because you're thinking about, oh, how much time I have left before the exam's over, right? In the middle of the exam or something. So those are outcome performance type focus, which actually stresses up the child. So that's why it's important for your child to learn to focus on what they've done, to focus on their strengths also, right? We'll talk about strengths later. But focus on, if you're looking at the question, then thinking about, okay, what's the answer to this? What have I done in the past that I practiced so many times that I can do that seems similar to this question that I'm looking at, though it might look slightly new, but generally the syllabus will cover certain concepts that are, repeated. So here you have the strategy to help your child focus and on the process goals. Okay. Yes, exactly, Eric. Eric Lee says, control the controllables. And if you look at these three types of goals, which one do you have the most control? Action process goals. Why? Because it's inside of you. Your thoughts is where your focus is. Your actions is your own behavior driven by yourself, no one else. But can you control other people? How they do? Whether they get the answer right? Whether they will get an A or a B? You can't control those things. So therefore, help your child to focus on what they have control. Help them focus on things that they know that they can do, because that's what they have trained themselves to do. That's what they have been practicing, their past year exam papers and things like that. So that is really key. So as parents, and even when I work with coaches, this is sometimes things that coaches say, don't disappoint the team, or don't lose, in English. So that's outcome focus, right? But when I hear good coaches say, you know what, relax, enjoy yourself, be yourself, do what you do in training. So when children ask their parents, this is what parents should say, right? Do what you normally do in your daily practice, right? So therefore, the strategy now is, as we gear up for exams, like in sport, we treat training, practice, like competition. And when we are in competition, we do exactly what we do in training. So that is so key. But I know it's not easy. I know it is not exams. Your child will say, it's not exam, mommy, daddy. I understand. But if you can trick your mind in the exam that is training or practice or homework, then you can also do the same both ways, right? So you need to, I guess, explain the logic to your child and say that if you can pretend that in normal practice that this is exams, and you time yourself, and sometimes timing is important because kids tend to take their own sweet time and things like that. So they're not simulating competitive exam oriented environments, but instead to relax. So it's good to have some timer in the back. Now, whether they finish or not, that's separate. The idea is to create that condition of exam kind of mindset that they must have. Even have a clock ticking in front of them, but answering the questions as best as they can. All right. And then see how well they can do. With practice, they will learn to ignore the timer. With practice, they will learn to be able to focus on, okay, answer the question. What's the strategy? What's the steps? What must I structure in my essay? Things like that. So those are the things that we can teach our children to do at home right now. So as a parent, start doing that with them before the exams. Don't wait, because this one needs to be a bit of a habit. Otherwise, it's too new a skill for them to apply. Okay, so I want to share with you a very important story. I just kind of put my face a little bit on the side. Yeah. And this guy, everyone knows him. Yeah, the one who won the most medals at the Olympics. His name is Michael Phelps, right? We all know him. And his coach, Coach Bauman, who has been a long time coach for Phelps, right, said this in a little presentation a couple of years ago. And he said this, and the message was very, very clear. He says, the process is more important than the outcome. Now, let that sink in for you for a moment. The process is more important than the outcome. But you pause and think for a moment. For a high performance athlete, isn't outcome important? Isn't winning medals important? Of course, it is so important. Then how come Coach Bauman says process is more important? And in that video, he said rightly, you can't control what other people do. You can't control how other swimmers will swim. But what you can control is how you swim. And so why do you want to worry about things you have no control, which is performance focus or outcome focus? So the secret, guys, when we learn from these world champion coaches, athletes, they're telling us one thing. And that one thing is your child needs to switch or swap mindsets from outcome or performance oriented thinking to process oriented thinking. Just before and during performance. Outside of performance, outside of those times, they can think outcome all they want, because that also drives them to wake up 5 a.m. in the morning and go swimming when all their peers are still lying in bed sleeping. So outcome goals are important to motivate us to know that we can accomplish something in the near future, but process goals is what gets us there. So you can liken process goals to be like the journey, and then the outcome goals to be the destination. Keep thinking about destination, it will never come. But when you deliver on your process, your journey, and taking every step of the way and doing it well and being efficient, you will get to your destination. Okay, so that's the important tip in terms of the three kinds of goals. So the three kinds of goals that spark motivation and while controlling event stress or competition exam stress. So the strategy is outcome is important to motivate your child. Performance also, because performance tell you what you need to accomplish. Process goals and focus would be things they must do. Okay, so think about the answers. Think about the steps. Think about the essay structure. These are things that are within their control. Okay, and those are the process goals. So when you focus on process goals during, just before and during performance, you will help your child manage the stress much better. Okay, so hopefully that put that point across to you. The next point I wanted to talk about is confidence. There was one day it was raining quite hard, and I was a bit inspired to do a little quote, and I thought about this for a while, and it's quite interesting because a lot of times when you see the clouds in the sky, and often you might think, oh, the day is going to be bad, it's dark and dreary. But then you think about it, at the end of the rainstorm, the sun will always come out. So confidence is also like that, that when you are hopeful, when you know that the outcome is going to be okay, that level of trust and belief will come. So confidence is about thinking like that even it is dark, even if you can't see what's in front of you, right? But if you learn to trust yourself and be able to do what needs to be done to get there, you can. So I'm going to teach you some of these science-backed strategies that I want to put out on my next few slides. So the next one is how do you strengthen your child's self-confidence, right? So there's this very famous psychologist, Albert Bandura, right? He talks about the 4 major sources of confidence. So the first one is, let me just click in a little bit. The first one is called performance accomplishments, right? Which is basically about accomplishing or achieving results. Sometimes it's not just results, but it can also be in terms of having enough practice or having enough preparation. The second one is what we call vicarious experience, psychology speak, which in layman term means modeling excellence. Modeling excellence means, you know, you're learning from someone who's good. You're modeling success strategies, yeah, and the concept of if someone else can do it, so can I. And then the third strategy is what we call verbal persuasion. It's a bit of a technical word, but basically it's just simply encouragement. And encouragement can come from within the person, your child. So teach them to think positively, or it can come from other people like yourself as a parent, or their teachers, their friends, and people around them, or their tutors. And then the last one is emotional control, which is basically, or emotional arousal, which is basically being calm. Because if you think about it, when you are nervous, right, you can't feel confident. In fact, it's counterintuitive, right? I mean, it's kind of like, it doesn't make sense. Your brain doesn't make sense, or your body also doesn't make sense of it. When you are nervous, when you are anxious, you can't feel confident. So you need to learn to compose yourself. Now, I'll talk about composure later, which is the third topic that we're going to cover today. Today, this one is the second topic. So anyway, let me give you some examples of each of these four factors. By the way, if you look on the left side of the chart, you will see the one at the top is the most powerful, which makes sense because confidence comes from having done it before, right? Confidence comes from having done it before. So if they have past successes, if they have practiced hard, practiced well, then feeling prepared is part of that performance accomplishment. Okay, not just result. By the way, it's not just about winning. It's not about getting A's. It's about doing the things that are right in academics. Therefore, that will make sense in this case. Yeah, vicarious experience, as I've said, is modeling excellence, learning from other people who are successful. Verbal persuasion is basically encouragement, positive encouragement from oneself within, and also from others who might give to the child. And then emotional arousal basically is about learning to stay calm and relax before and during performance. So let's delve deeper into each one. So this one maybe will explain a little bit clearer, right? So you have the four factors in ranking order or descending order, yeah? Performance accomplishment being the strongest of the lot, right? And then getting weaker and weaker down the line. So examples of what you can do to strengthen your child's confidence. Number one is to get them to make sure they're well prepared, right? Doing all your past year exam papers is so critical. I think Singapore, we do that quite well. Do not underestimate the power of enough of those kind of past year exam papers. But please make sure they continue to do so. But here's one tip. Don't just do the exam papers and then forget about it. If mistakes are made, they need to retake or redo those questions. Don't just finish the paper, okay, throw away. No, they need to go back to those questions, particularly they didn't do so well, right? That means that the concept wasn't clear or they didn't quite understand that aspect as such. Therefore, they need to revisit that and then practice a couple more times, okay? And it's okay. So an accomplishment here means that they have achieved something. So if they've done well in some semester exams or semester tests, those will be important to remind oneself or to remind themselves. Vicarious experience will be observations or imagery, seeing someone doing it. In this case, academically, in sports, we will observe, let's say, a world champion, and we model after a world champion in which we're not there yet. But for the academic side, it's tough, right? So the only practical strategy here would be to actually look at past exam papers and look at how the author of the past year papers, for example, or the teacher also, yeah, came to the solution for that particular question. So this way, the child has a role model in terms of the academic steps that need to be taken in answering those questions. Does that make sense? So therefore, that's what that means. Vicarious experience means to model excellence. So that's why in the exam, past year papers in some of these popular bookstores and all, they have things like, model answers, right? Model answer is what it means, model excellence in the answers to be written in the exams. Should that be an actual exam question, right? So they're modeling the pattern of success academically. The third one is encouragement from you as a parent and telling them that they can achieve, right? We can achieve, yeah. And also self-talk, what they say to themselves, right? You'll be surprised. A lot of people have a lot of negative self-talk in their heads. So it's important to stay positive, yeah, and optimistic. Just like the sun example just now in terms of the quote that I gave you, right? In the clouds. And then lastly, being calm is and relaxed is so key. And therefore, I'm going to go into depth about this emotional arousal part because that's also an important skill that needs to be acquired in improving confidence. Now, remember, some confidence a bit above your normal self is good, right? But not overconfidence. We don't want to have, cockiness going into an exam. Okay, the person will get in trouble, right? So what we're saying is a little bit above the mean or average confidence is good, right? And then this will increase the chance of feeling more relaxed and more calm, and that will help facilitate better focus and things like that, which I'll cover a little bit more on this particular aspect. Okay, so very quickly, your action plan as a parent. Number one, remind your child of the times that when they have done well. Okay, we have a tendency as an Asian culture to focus on what's not right. We tend to focus on what's wrong, right? Just before exams in the last month, you can stop all that already. Okay, focus on what they can do, focus on what they have done. That is so important. No point increasing their stress, no point focusing on things they've not done well. I mean, if they're not prepared themselves, whatever it is, there's nothing much we can do anymore, right? We just have to go in there with some confidence so that they don't trip and fall, literally, metaphorically. Okay, so remind them that they have done certain things well, right? So it has to be factual. So make sure you don't get them to bluff themselves. If they haven't done something well, don't focus on those. Focus on those that they have done well. Okay, technically, academically. Second strategy is help them learn from successful role models. Yeah, others in terms of past exam answers. So the model answers in exam type papers are important, right? So I remember when I was studying, I would make sure that when I buy the 10-year series, I would make sure that there's model answer. Partly because I want to have the confidence to know that if I get my answer wrong, I have someone to help me. In some cases, of course, if a tutor or a teacher in school can be of help, great. You can use that as a support structure, right? But sometimes the teacher's not there or available, and you want the answer straight away because you don't want the answer to be lingering, the wrong answer to be lingering in your head for too long. Otherwise, it becomes reality for the person. So you want to quickly correct the mistake. Therefore, some prepared solution would be useful. But make sure the child don't copy it. Make sure they think about the answer, write it down the best they can, and then compare the answer. There's a tendency sometimes kids would just copy the answer. At the end of the day, they don't learn anything. Try to do it without the answers and then compare. That way, if there are any mistakes, they can then do a comparative and then be able to identify where the mistakes are and then obviously make changes accordingly. Okay. The third strategy, based on the four factors we talked about, right? Encouragement, right? But and therefore give words of encouragement when they appear doubtful. So that's something that you can do for your child to help them feel more confident by telling them that they can do this, or mommy, daddy believes in you. So it's so important because this is the time when they will doubt themselves sometimes, right? So you cannot let them go into the exam hall with that doubt. Some confidence is better than none. I have a little quote down there, if I may say. Having lots of confidence is no guarantee for success, but having no confidence is guarantee for failure. It's just like saying studying, no guarantee you'll pass, but if you don't study, sure will fail. Okay, so the point here is confidence is kind of like insurance. That means if you have no confidence, you are bound to go inside the exam hall really feeling terrible, okay, and unprepared. But some confidence is important to make the child feel ready, and there's a higher chance that they'll better. So it's about probability. It's about preparing them and to be ready for a high performance setting. And the exams, major exams, is a high performance setting. It is. It really is. And therefore, they need to perform up to potential. And therefore, this particular concept in terms of being positive, both to themselves as they speak to themselves in their heads, and also what you say to them is important, right? Remember, I said to you, focus on the process, focus on things that they have, achieved in the past, and make them, be in control of themselves and to focus on what they have control over. And then the last strategy is to remind them to manage their energy levels, to stay calm, relaxed, so that they can be better in control. If you're nervous, what's going to happen is, your hands are going to be sweaty and you're going to have a hard time writing. And so that is going to be quite bad in terms of a distraction also for the child. So a lot of times helping the child learn to relax themselves is important as part of the overall strategy. And remember, this is the fourth element in confidence, in terms of the four factors for confidence building. So this particular strategy is to help them relax so that when you're feeling more relaxed, the confidence can come, right? So anxiety and nervousness is like, something's dragging or holding you back. It's like you're running and something's holding you back, and something's tying you back, and therefore you can't run as fast as you can, right? And so therefore the strategy is to let it go and let go of that negativity, right? And feel relaxed and calm and loose and fluid, right? And then that's where the body and the mind will take care of itself. So a lot of times we tell our athletes also in sport that being calm is so important as one of the first steps to high performance. Okay. So that's the 4 pre-exam confidence building strategies, making sure that they have, practiced enough performance accomplishments, right? So therefore they remind themselves things that they've done. The second one is vicarious experience, where they model excellence, or in some cases too, sometimes is to get them to think about what they want to do, so that they anticipate ahead of time what are some of the things they need to do to achieve the performance. So vicarious experience is about modeling excellence, and it's about picking up the solutions from the model answers in the exam type papers, and then the other one is verbal persuasion, which is basically feeling, encouraging oneself to be optimistic and being positive, right? And as a parent, we need to encourage our children in the last phases of their final period before the exams. And then the last one is feeling calm, right? And I'm going to talk about the 2 composure skills. And one of these skills are used by the US Navy SEALs. So let me just highlight this one very important point. Increased arousal due to stress leads to narrow focus, which in turn increases likelihood of misreading questions and rushing. What this means is that studies show that when a person, in fact, not just students, okay, can be anyone, in a high performance setting, they get nervous, they get really nervous, anxious, stressed out, right? So what happens is that the attentional awareness narrows because you are in this fight or flight response. And in this kind of situation, your survival literally is the most important thing. So everything that's not critical to your survival is not picked up. The cues, the information in the environment is not picked up. So a lot of parents tell me, hey, my child, every time in the exam, make silly mistakes. But when in homework or doing homework in a normal school, even normal school tests, no problem. So cannot figure out why. Actually, the answer is quite simple. Why? Because in the exams, the stress level is higher. The expectations are higher. So in the heightened stress, which they rarely feel in other minor tests, their narrow focus happens. Okay, that narrow focus then leads to them not picking up some of the cues that is in front of them. In this case, they might be rushing the answers, or they're not reading the question properly. So one strategy to overcome that nervousness, and I'm sure teachers have taught this to your children, and one strategy is underline the keywords. Even in your anxiety, underlining your keywords and what the question is asking is a surefire way to help counter that rash reading. Sometimes people read the question and they don't pick up things because of that high nervousness. So therefore, they need to learn how to use this important tactic. But even then, your nervousness is going to blank your mind. You know, there are a lot of cases where students get very, blank. They have a blank mind just, in the exam hall, and then they just got nothing inside their heads. And they can't answer the questions altogether. So they get in trouble, right? And then when they can't answer, they panic even more, and then the brain just shuts down. And that's the most frustrating part. So therefore, to prevent this potentially from happening, your children need to learn composure skills, which is linked to this other one that we were just talking about, right? Stay calm, relax, and practice relaxation. Because Bandura said, yeah, emotional arousal is the fourth, and despite being the least important or least impactful, it is still a factor. I mean, otherwise our friend wouldn't put it inside there, would he? The fact that it is an important factor, we need to teach our children how to stay calm in the exam. Okay, so sorry, I'm kind of fast forwarding. Yeah, so there are two skills that we teach, even in high performance sport. One is progressive relaxation, okay, where they learn to listen to the bodies, pay attention to where the tension parts or where parts of the body might feel tense, and then learn to relax those parts on command. Now, to do that, it might seem a bit difficult. So what we did was we partnered with the Mental Toughness Research Institute to create an audio script, right, for people to listen. And later I'll give you the link to that. And you or your child can listen to that as part of it. Now we're going to create a child version very soon, right? So follow us on Facebook at Sport Psych Consulting Facebook page. And then when we have an update, you will be the first to know it, right? So the first one is learning progressive muscular relaxation, where they're listening to the body, paying attention to the parts of the body that are tense, right? In fact, some of the exercises require the person to tense the muscles, feel the tension, and then after that, release the tension. So this particular exercise is used by, guess who? Michael Phelps. Michael Phelps actually said that he used progressive muscular relaxation, this particular same exact skill, to help him learn to pay attention to the tension in the body and then help him relax on command. Okay, so this exercise is also very useful before they go to bed. A lot of times, especially the night before exams, kids normally worry about, the questions, what will happen, what grade I will get, that kind of stuff. So their minds are racing. They've got lots of thoughts in their heads. So one strategy is to listen to the script, and it will help them relax. It will help them calm down. It will also help them train their mind-body awareness, right? So with regular practice, it will help. So Michael Phelps' mother, Debbie, would sit with him in his dimly lit bedroom and read a script. And the script is actually audio recorded in MP3 format, okay? And basically the mother will read the script to Michael Phelps, and Michael Phelps will sleep with that script every night. Every night. When he was a teenager, his mom would do this for him because his coach said, this is good for you. Learn how to relax. So we're teaching you the same exact skill. And then lastly, know that the muscular relaxation is not that practical, fortunately or unfortunately, in a performance setting, because when you do that, you'll be really relaxed and really drowsy. You don't want that in the exam, would you? So you want your child to be alert, but yet relaxed and calm. So the next exercise is more geared towards just before and during performance. It's called centering. This one is very simple. It's basically a breathing technique that gets your child to breathe naturally, just like a baby lying in its cot, right? And doing what we call abdominal breathing. Now, a lot of mindfulness exercises, meditation exercises are basically based on this particular, or this exercise is based on those principles. Nothing new. It's just that Our kids need to practice these skills on a regular basis. Okay, so and they can do this just before and even during exams, because centering is basically a breathing exercise. So you need to breathe, right? I mean, otherwise you drop dead. So you need the exercise, you need to breathe in order for you to stay alive. So might as well breathe in a way that calms you. And then with this calmness, you can focus better, right? And not rush. And also with this calmness, you support your own confidence levels. So therefore, you can see the relationship in all of this. So, so those are the two composure skills: progressive relaxation, to learn mind-body awareness, to learn to relax different parts of the body, so that the child would be able to listen and pay attention and relax on command. And secondly, be able to sleep at night without worrying too much or thinking too much. So it's a wonderful exercise, and it's a life skill. And and for me, if I when I use it, I find myself about halfway through the exercise, I fall asleep. And guess what? It's okay, because I want to fall asleep anyway, right? I don't want to be tossing and turning and tossing and turning. The worst one is when the night before exam, right? The child is turning and tossing, cannot sleep. And that's so stressful, because the next morning they'll be so tired, right? It will affect their concentration, it will affect their emotional state, their mood state. And guess what? It will affect their grades, right? In terms of their percentage chances of making mistakes, because they're not focused, they're not alert. So having a good night's sleep is so important. Now, let me say this. If you want your child to practice this skill, right, make sure they listen to it, weeks before the exam. Don't just listen just before. Again, any skill that we're teaching here needs to be practiced regularly. Don't wait until just before exams, then you start to practice. No, 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 no. You got to do it way ahead. You got to make it a part of your routine. Okay, so please, if you're gonna start now, before the exams, do it now, right? Don't wait until exams. All right, and I'll give you the link in a bit. Okay, so those are the three skills: setting goals, process goals are more important than outcome goals. Confidence strategies is about making sure you're well prepared, doing the things that you've done as if in practice, as if in competition, in exams, and then during exams you pretend as if you are doing it in normal daily life. Yeah. And then modeling excellence, or in some cases imagining yourself in the exam hall, right, being able to answer some difficult questions. It's not about answering the easy questions. Everyone can answer easy questions. It is answering the difficult ones. I remember a couple of years ago, right, PSLE, or even particularly PSLE, some questions where a lot of children cannot answer, right? They came out of the exam hall crying. In fact, some of them were so distraught that counselors had to get involved. So the point is that there will be difficult questions. I think our children need to learn to stay calm. So this is such an important skill also. Yeah, that's the fourth skill, right? They need to encourage themselves during the exam, and they need to be realistic. And children need to learn that in the exams there will be some tough questions. They will have and will experience difficult questions. Therefore, they need to be prepared, right? And be more encouraging towards themselves. And then and then they need to stay calm, right? So the performance composure skill is a centering exercise where they need to breathe. The progressive relaxation is when they are sleeping or in the beds trying to fall asleep. Okay, so those are the two relaxation skills. So where do you get the script? Well, we got this at this website. It's called bit.ly /bit.ly/mental toughness audio. Okay, mental toughness audio, which is also right here. Yeah, at the bottom of this little square graphic. Yeah, so all the audio scripts are there are two there. One is the progressive relaxation, and the other one is the centering one. So that one is what I talked about just now, and they can be used, right? And just listen out. This one has got an adult voice, so we'll be preparing a child voice very soon. Kind of similar script, but kind of like I have a child's voice, so that it doesn't sound so intimidating. Sometimes when a child listens to an adult, they might get a little bit stressed out. So we're preparing one. So again, please follow us on facebook.com/sportpsych consulting, right here. And you will, when we update the script, you can actually have a copy of it. Yeah. And it's downloadable for free. Everything we do, we want to give back to the community. So it's free. Yeah. For you to listen to from the website. But if you choose to want to keep it, then you just pay a small little token sum, right? And you can download the audio MP3 and then use it for the rest of your life. Yeah, and yeah, it's free to listen on the website. So very quickly, oh, someone just asked some questions. Okay, how would you get the child to approach the hard questions? Like how to prep them exactly? Maylin asks, well, let me give the example in sport. In sport, we typically expose our kids, our athletes, to difficult challenges, difficult opponents, which is natural. You can't go in a competition and just thinking that you're going to be the best when you might not be. And when you face a difficult one, that's where the problem lies, because your hopes are all dashed. You have this wrong notion that I'm the best and everything's great and dandy. Then when you see a difficult problem or a difficult challenge, you cannot handle. So exposure to difficult questions is key, right? So pepper the homework, the home practice with difficult questions. Don't just do the easy ones. Easy ones everyone can do. It's the difficult ones that differentiate the A's and the D's. I mean, I teach at the university. So one of the key things that differentiate the top students and the not so top is the ones who are able to answer the difficult questions. So therefore, they need to learn how to manage difficult ones. So, but you can't give every question difficult, because otherwise their confidence level will drop tremendously. So let's say in 10 questions, give 2 or 3 difficult ones, so that at least when they get those right, the easier ones, they have that confidence to kind of follow through. And then the difficult questions would be, be part of that reality check. Yeah. Coach and teacher Joel Tay says, do more difficult questions. Exactly. But again, it depends on the confidence level of your child. And what he said is true. Okay, good one, Joel, rather. Good coach and teacher too. So he basically, it comes from a teacher standpoint, right, and a coach too. And he's a very good coach, by the way. Yeah. So he uses these principles with his kids. I mean, his students, and we do this in sport too. We push them, we push the body, right, to handle the difficult ones. It's not the easy ones. Okay. So expose your child to difficult questions, but enough for them to not feel overwhelmed that I cannot do the thing. And remember, I said there needs to be some model answer, at least to give them some assurance that there are parts of the exam question that they got right. There might be some parts they get it wrong. That's fine. Learn from that, find out why. The ones that are correct, celebrate success, right? Unless they totally don't answer the question, that's a bad thing, obviously, yeah. But I don't think we're there yet. I don't think your child is at that level, I'm sure. Yeah, so mainly hope they answer question. Eric asks, how do we recover to teach our children recover if they get into a nervous breakdown or zone out during exams or sport performance? How do we teach them to recover? Well, the relaxation exercises actually is a preventive measure that they learn to relax themselves when they need to. So get them to practice. Then, here's one tip we do this. When we prepare our athletes for competition, we tell them, as you are, so one way is this is an exercise, this is a drill, okay? Like the US Navy SEALs, they do this thing called a box drill. But for us in sport and even in academics, we do this. We get them to do jogging on the spot. I know, sounds strange. Jogging on the spot to raise heart rate, okay? To simulate stress. And then in their minds, they think about a difficult question or think themselves in the exam hall and then imagine themselves answering the question as they do that, right? So the idea is to simulate stressful conditions physiologically and mentally, and then try to do their best to answer, or try to practice the relaxation exercises, or try to practice the centering exercise to help them while even trying to answer the question. You might make it like a game. If it's a younger child, make it a game-like kind of thing. It'll be fun for the kid. Okay. And we even do this at the elite level. So it is not new. It is just what we call simulation. We just need to simulate that competitive situation so that it can become as close as possible. short of having lots of exams, which is not the point, right? Yeah, how young can kids be introduced to these strategies? You know what? We even brought all the way down to preschool level. Now, of course, preschool level, it's a lot simpler, a lot in terms of the concepts, but definitely primary school. We've done this at primary school level, so definitely can be done. We have worked with some schools where we design and write curriculum for the whole school from primary 1 through primary 6, where we design mental skills similar to what we've just talked about, only that it's not lecture style, but rather it's experiential, getting the kids to listen to a script, learning to use some metaphor to help themselves relax, stay focused, be more confident, dealing with mistakes and things like that. So, and you know what we found in our research is that students who do sport are mentally tougher, because in sport there's always a chance that you will make mistakes, and in sport there's always a chance that you will fail. I mean, if you look at a competition in sport, only one person wins. You can be a nice title person, first runner up, second runner up, very nice title, very nice name, but actually you're still a loser. Think about it, right? You're second and third, you're still a loser. Only champion is the champion. Everything else, you're a loser. But in sport, the culture of sport is such that you have to learn how to just dust off, you know, and then pick yourself up and go again. And our research with several high school students, secondary school students, we found that students who do sport are mentally stronger than the students who don't do sport. Now, don't get me wrong, nothing against other CCAs, right? Other CCAs develop other skill sets, leadership, and things like that, musical abilities. Those are great. Continue to do those. But just purely sport alone, sport is a place where competition happens almost every day. Even if it's a friendly match, there is still a chance that your ego will be battered because you made a mistake and you failed or you lost to your teammate. And remember, second is still a loser. So therefore, teaching your kids how to lose is part of the learning, right? But in our system, we have a tendency to focus on perfect results and perfect grades. How do you teach your children to learn to handle failure? Nowhere else. You can't fail in academics. You have to do something else. So guess what? I recommend parents send your kids to play sport. Send to Coach Joel Tay. He's a great coach. He will push them mentally, physically, and make them fitter, stronger, yeah, and be able to handle the stress. So that one definitely. Now again, I have a few more series coming up. If I may, I will answer some of those questions in a while. I just want to do this before my session runs out. Yeah, because at 9 o'clock I have to stop. So today we finish Exam Smart, right? How to help your child perform to potential exams. The second one, now we don't have the exact dates yet. We're looking at how today's session is. So please, put some likes to this page so that my co-host or my host and producer would let me continue in the second session. No, I'm just kidding. How to sustain an active lifestyle routine even post circuit breaker phase 2. So this one is more for the parents, right? How do you sustain that? And then work smart will be lessons lessons and practical tips for high performance sport. See, I'm getting nervous myself. That is transferable to the workplace. So we're using sport as a metaphor to apply this to the workplace. So you can use some of these concepts that we teach. Yeah. And again, the concepts we taught today can also be used. Actually, if I were to repeat myself, I don't think I'll be talking nonsense at all. Just kidding. So therefore, we're having a third session on that. And then number 4, as I was talking about, right? Kids Smart, developing stress resilient children for school and life through the power of sport, where I'll talk about the power of sport and the research. So I'll talk more about that. So during the holidays, maybe now's not the right time to start pick up a sport, but after the exams, I recommend and strongly recommend that you get your kids to play some sport. Now I know with the COVID-19 situation, not easy to do that, but there are some sports that you can do, right? And we can talk about that during the session, okay? Which is already probably after the exam period. Okay, thank you for those great questions. Yeah, so yes, thank you. Any other questions, anyone? Yes, please follow us on SAFRA Tampines Facebook. Yeah, for subsequent sessions, because we will be posting that up onto the page, or rather SAFRA will post it on that page and they will notify you, right? And also, if you want the audio scripts that is crafted for children, for primary and secondary school kids, then just follow us on Facebook or like us on Facebook, Sport Psych Consulting, where we will update you when the new scripts comes out. Yeah, they're all free on the website. You can use it and listen to it. No emails, no names needed. Just play it, plug and play. Okay. How about daydreamers? Ms. Wendy Fu says, and kids with short attention span. Um, Daydreamers often are very creative. They have lots of ideas. They want to do things. So, in fact, they are great. They are good in their imagination. In fact, if you ask me, we should encourage that. I think we have a tendency to tell kids not to dream and not to daydream. Now, obviously, kids daydream all the time. You know why? Because that's where the creative mind is. If you think about it, the brain has got two sides, right? The left side of the brain. Now, guys, looking at my clock, I have 5 minutes left, so I'll do my best, okay? If you have any other questions, please pop them in, so I try my best to answer. So very quickly, to answer the question, daydreamers and attention spanners. Actually, you know what? In school, right, the kids are all left brain, because when you're learning new things, you're logical, you're analytical, you're sequential in your thought process. Your left brain is overworked. Then the right brain is bored, the right brain needs some stimulation. So that's why kids daydream, because it's a natural process, right? So one strategy is something like what I've done, to create color, pictures, movement in learning. Then the daydreaming will disappear, because the right side of the brain is activated and captivated by the visuals, my mouse, right? By the visuals that happen. Okay? Because when you do that, the daydreaming will stop, because that part of the brain is dealt with. Okay? One question. Yeah, short attention span is partly because their mind is nowadays the kids are stimulated with a lot of these online social media and things like that, and gaming. So they have not learned patience. And one of the things about attention span is really to be able to stick with something and stay focused. So one strategy, I know parents are gonna jump on me on this one, is to actually play computer games. I know computer games are addictive, but computer games are great in concentration. You know why? Because when I get gamers to do concentration exercises, they are the best concentrators in the whole group. In my whole university class, right? They are very good in their focus, because they are trained with the gaming to stay focused, and their lives are at stake. So here's the point. If they can focus during gaming, they can focus anywhere. It's just that what they're learning or what they're studying is not interesting to them, unfortunately. So that's where the challenge comes. How do you make a subject come alive? Now that sometimes is the role of the system that we are operating in, but that's something I can't change, right? But know that if their child can play computer games, they can focus, definitely. So it's got to do with the interest level, right? So the key here is to help them find success. See, when children don't see success, they will get bored very easily, and that's what catches them off. Okay, how do you approach special needs? Now, unfortunately, tonight special needs is not our focus. Special needs requires specialist training, and also some of the strategies are different. All I can say is that special needs require a lot of patience on the caregivers. Yeah, caregivers in terms of the support and the patience, because otherwise, as a parent or caregiver, sometimes you get impatient with a special needs child, right? You have other things to do. You got your work, you got other commitments and things like that. So our patience level affects and impacts negatively on a special needs kid. So they need special environment that facilitates that. But unfortunately, this is not our focus for this session. I'm sorry, I won't be able to answer that. But definitely, maybe SAFRA Tampines can consider some topic on this nature. Then we can address those. Yeah. But today we're looking at just your general population, and hopefully some of the strategies will make sense. Yeah. Hi, Sex One. Nice to see some of you online. And thank you all for taking the time, this past 1 hour listening to me yak. But I hope that you found something useful. And please like the SAFRA Tampines website where you're watching this right now. There will be 3 more other webinars that will come on stream in the coming weeks ahead. And I promise you the script will also come on also when we create those. Yeah. So like us on Facebook and join us and follow us. And then we'll see you soon. Yeah. And everyone take care and be safe. Thank you. Thank you for your time. God bless all. Bye bye.